The Philadelphia Phillies are out of the playoffs, and they lost in embarrassing fashion.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the #1 daily podcast on the New York Mets. If you want to find any of my written work, you do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the editor-in-chief. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today. On yesterday's show, I told you at the very end that I may talk about some prospects on today's show, but also, depending on what happened with the Phillies game against the Dodgers, we could be talking about that, and I think that's a better topic for the day. I think that's where I want to spend my time because all of my demons from 2025 have been exorcised. I feel good. I don't care anymore. I've had weeks to process the Mets collapse. I'm good now because the one thing I had left to root against in this playoffs were the Philadelphia Phillies. I was also rooting against the Yankees. That got cleaned up a couple nights ago. But for the Phillies, you never knew what was going to happen. Could they rally back from down 2-0 and beat the Dodgers and go on this run to win the World Series? They were the favorite going into the series. They win Game 3 on the road, and then we're watching a great pitcher's duel between Tyler Glasnow and Christopher Sanchez. Honestly, just an awesome baseball game to watch. Great defense on both sides, great pitching. One inning where each team scores a run. It goes into extras. Just a wild game. And it ends on an error by Orion Kerkering. And for the first time in MLB history, a playoff series ended on a walk-off error, and Phillies fans are devastated and fine. If you're watching this video and you want to comment, hey, Ryan, your team was a loser too? Sure, go ahead, comment. You're feeling a lot worse today than I am. You're probably feeling a lot worse as your season ends. I don't know. What's worse? Orion Kerkering throwing it to the backstop when he had an out at first base and the game could have extended into a 12th inning. And then who knows, with Blake Trinan warming up in the bullpen, who has been awful lately, good chance the Phillies score in that 12th inning. Maybe they advance. Maybe they win Game 5 at home. Maybe they beat the Brewers or the Cubs in the NLCS. Maybe they win the World Series. I think Phillies fans are feeling a lot worse today than even Mets fans did because, yes, the embarrassment of missing the playoffs was obviously brutal, but to have it in your hands and to be that close and it all falls apart, I don't know, especially when if you are a diehard Phillies fan, you're probably a diehard Eagles fan, and you think, all right, well, let me, pay a little more attention to Thursday Night Football, and you watch the New York Giants, my Giants, beat up on the defending champion Eagles 34-17. We got a quarterback. I might actually be a lot more locked into Giants games than I've been the last couple years because they got Jackson Dart and they got Cam Scatterboo, this rookie backfield that just took it to the Eagles. So after getting to watch the Eagles blow it, I then get to watch, after watching the Phillies blow it, I then got to watch the Eagles have just an awful game. And I'm on cloud nine. What a night. What a night. I'm telling you, all of my demons, they're gone. They're gone. Yeah, sure. We'll talk about it more in the next segment, really putting context to the 2025 season. But what happened to the Phillies in this game, it's going to be remembered forever. Okay, I listened to Connor Thomas, the host of Locked On Phillies, and I encourage you to watch his show today. I can't wait to watch it. I'm thrilled. I got to watch his reaction video. And Connor's a good dude, so I hate to be piling on him, but he said at the end of his reaction video, the immediate reaction, he said shades of Buckner. That is what that play is already being compared to. And let me lay out the whole thing in case you weren't watching the game because you might have tuned out on baseball a couple weeks ago and the Mets were eliminated. So again, pitchers duel. Tyler Glasnow, Christopher Sanchez. Really was an awesome game. First 6 innings, nobody scores. 7th inning, the Dodgers go to the bullpen. Emmett Sheehan gives up a leadoff single to JT Realmuto. Then there is a would-be double play up off the bat of Max Kepler, but Sheehan can't catch the return throw to first base, and that allows Kepler to not only reach first safely, but advance to second. So you got a runner in scoring position for Nick Castellanos. He rips an RBI double. The Phillies grab a 1-0 lead. Christopher Sanchez goes back out for the bottom of the 7th inning. Trey Turner makes a great play to open up that inning. Turner played a great game defensively. Really was a really good defensive game for the Phillies until it wasn't. He then issued a walk and then a base hit to Kike Hernandez, and he was pulled in favor of their closer, Juan Duran. Duran comes on, gets a ground out that advanced the runners. That leaves first base open, and Ohtani was coming up, so they intentionally walk Ohtani to face Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts draws a bases-loaded walk that ties the game, but then Duran gets out of it. And then he puts up a 0 in the 8th, and then Matt Strahm puts up a 0 in the 9th. Jesus Luzardo, the would-be Game 5 starter, puts up a 0 in the 10th. Meanwhile, on the other side, after Sheehan got through that 7th inning, giving up just the 1 run, the Dodgers go to Roki Sasaki, who all of a sudden is this unbelievable relief weapon for them. And he pitches 3 perfect innings, gets a couple strikeouts, gets the Dodgers all the way to the 11th inning. Alex Vassia comes out. He puts up a 0. Jesus Luzardo stays on for the bottom of the 11th. He strikes out Freddie Freeman, but then he gives up a base hit, gets a fly out, but then gives up another hit. And then here comes Orion Kerkering. Kerkering walks the bases loaded, and then he's facing Andy Pages. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Pages hits a comebacker that Kerkering does not field cleanly. And this is a lot tougher of a play than it looks when you're watching it because the pressure is immense. And a pitcher is just focused on the batter. It's not your shortstop that has, all the scenarios playing through their mind. If it's hit to me, I'm going to come home. Or if it's hit to me, I'm going to go to first. If it's hit to me, who are my runners? Like an infielder is thinking about all these things. A pitcher, you're thinking about striking that batter out or getting that batter out, and you get the comebacker. You bobble it, and then you got to make a decision. JT Realmuto is pointing to first. I'm sure all of his teammates are yelling 1-1-1. StatCast after the game pointed out that Andy Pages was 55 feet from first base. I think it was Hae-Sung Kim was 30 feet from home. And Kerkering's decision was to go home with it. And he airmails the throw home, throws it to the backstop, game over. Dodgers win, Phillies lose. Just awful. Like the Lucas Duda era time. Well, that was the World Series, so, But pretty bad. I don't think that the Lucas Duda era, though, is remembered outside of Mets fans. I don't think very many baseball fans are going to forget that play because of how it ended and because the visual of seeing Pages not even halfway down the line, if he just turns and throws to Bryce Harper, you get through that inning. And with Blake Treinen warming up for the 12th, there is every chance that you were going to eventually get to that Achilles heel of the Dodgers bullpen, and the Phillies could have advanced. They could have advanced, and who knows where they could have gone. But now they're done. They're done. They're a loser just like the Mets. So what I want to talk about next is how the Phillies lost and also the Yankees lost, because the Yankees, they also had an embarrassing series loss. How does that put the Mets season into a little bit of context? So I'm going to explain what I mean by that, because at the end of the day, what I've learned from this playoff run, there's 29 losers in any baseball season. Doesn't matter how you lose, there's still 29 losers. So I want to expand on that a little bit here in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to lock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel is going to make the game day experience so much better. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 15,000 subscribers. We are getting pretty close. Really do appreciate all of you. Continue to subscribe. All right, so I mentioned the Yankees series loss, and I never did talk about it on the show. For the Yankees, they just ran into a better team. Not that the Phillies did not run into a better team with the Dodgers. That Dodgers team is very good. There's every chance that they are still the best team in baseball and ultimately are holding the trophy when it's all said and done again. But for the Yankees, I mean, they just got beat handily by the Blue Jays. I think through the first 15 innings of that series, they were outscored by 20 runs. It was 23-3 through the first, 15 innings. The first game they lost, I want to say 10-1, and the second game they lost 13-7. But there was a 5-run seventh inning that the Yankees had in sort of mop-up time in that second game of that series. They had a dramatic victory of the Yankees then in Game 3. Aaron Judge hit a majestic home run. He had an unbelievable playoff run, Judge did. I think he kind of flushed some of those narratives about him not showing up in October. But Game 4, a tight baseball game, 2-1 score. Jazz Chisholm gets a would-be double play ball, and he boots it. And that allows the Blue Jays to score 2 runs in that seventh inning, makes their 2-1 lead a 4-1 lead. And they would ultimately win that game 5-2. And after the game, you got Vladdy and David Ortiz just laughing in the face of all Yankees fans, laughing in the face of Derek Jeter and A-Rod on the postgame show, doing the Yankees lose. It's an awesome clip if you haven't watched it. You can just watch it on repeat over and over again. The just sheer joy on the face of Big Papi and Vladdy. It is awesome to see that. It was a fun collapse for them too. I'm just drinking in the tears, and you could call it loser energy for me because the Mets have been out of this for a month now. But again, to me, I really think this does put into context that idea of there's 29 losers in any baseball season, and it's never going to feel good the day after there's no more baseball until pitchers and catchers report. It's never going to feel good. Now, this is not me saying, the Mets were better off to not make the playoffs. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, the only way that I would entertain it is if you think that the Mets could have upset the Dodgers in a 3-game set, and then the Phillies would have mopped the floor with the Mets, and maybe the Phillies are able to have the runway to win the World Series if they're facing the Mets instead of the Dodgers. But that the Dodgers would have beat the Mets handedly, and it would have been the exact same story for the Phillies. At the end of the day, you can't say, now in retrospect, I'm happy the Mets didn't make the playoffs, because I still would have loved to see Nolan McLean get a playoff start. There's been some really impressive rookies in the postseason so far. Cam Schlittler for the Yankees had an iconic performance to get the Yankees into that ALDS. Yankees fans would not give up that performance to avoid the feeling of losing to the Blue Jays in the DS. They wouldn't have wanted to lose to the Red Sox or to have not made the playoffs. You want to see your team go as far as they possibly can. And it's going to be heartbreaking whenever it ends. And so, yes, of course, in retrospect, or if I could change things, would I have rather seen the Mets get, beaten up by the Dodgers in the wild card round than have not made it at all? Of course. I still would rather see the Mets have been a playoff team than have not. That embarrassment of losing your season to the Marlins that way, it's right up there, and it goes into that same bucket of the 2007 collapse. So it's not to say that the Mets were any less embarrassing in 2025, but it is to remind you that unless your team wins the World Series, you're going to feel some level of heartbreak. If you are a fan of the White Sox, that was just a season-long odyssey of agony. Although I guess for them, compared to 2024, maybe 2025 wasn't that bad. But if you're a Rockies fan, probably a miserable existence this past year. If you were a Giants fan, when they were right there with the Mets, they had moved to even for that second before they lost that game. But when they were right in that wild card hunt, you were riding high, and then they crashed on earth. And for them, that week leading up was heartbreaking. Francisco Lindor said it after the season. He's never won that final game. And so every year, it's always a tough blow when your season ends. It's always going to be heartbreaking. But I think comparing this season to other years in the past, this isn't like 2021 where the New York Mets blew a division and the Braves went on to win the World Series. It's not like 2022 when the Mets had a 101-win season that flamed out in the wild card round, and then we all had to watch the Phillies go to the World Series. Yes, the Mets missed the playoffs, but guess what? The Phillies are done. The Braves are done. The Yankees are done. I'm good. I'm good right now. Because the Phillies are out of it, I can turn the page to 2026, and I don't have anything left to root against in this playoffs. It's going to be the Cubs, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, and the Mariners. Have at it. I don't care. I mean, maybe you'd want to root against the dynasty. I think a lot of people don't want to see the Dodgers win back-to-back. But I'm not going to be feeling any type of way, really, if they do it. Would I prefer to see the Mariners win the World Series or the Tigers? Sure. Who doesn't love the underdog? I wouldn't mind seeing the Blue Jays win it either. Cubs, Brewers, I don't know if I really care if either of them wins it. But the bottom line is, for a Mets fan processing the postseason, now, what else is there to be concerned with? You could think about the offseason. You could think about 2026 and 2025. Soon it will be a distant memory. A couple more weeks, World Series will wrap up, and then free agency will open up. And that's all we're going to be talking about. And here on this show, we've already turned that page. So what we're going to talk about in the final segment here, where are things with the Phillies? Because it feels like a contention window is starting to draw to a close. And personally, I actually do believe, quite honestly, that the Mets right now, and if there's Phillies fans watching, you're going to hate me hearing it, and the pessimistic Mets fans aren't going to like me saying it either. I think this team is in the best spot of any team in the NL East right now. I really do. I think they are sitting very pretty going into this offseason. And I'm going to explain why to close out the show here in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiit Go Long. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time that you meet Rugiit Go Long. This is not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, even into the next day. And the process is simple. You connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment will ship discreetly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiit.com. That's Rugiet.com. And use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. Again, that's Rugiet, Rugiet.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. If you're an everydayer that always tunes into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. It's our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks on the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime, take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways, and get a line graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. So let's talk about where the Phillies are at right now, because they have a lot of pending free agents. They got Kyle Schwarber will be a free agent. JT Realmuto will be a free agent, as will Ranger Suarez. Those are the big 3. You have Max Kepler who's going to hit free agency. David Robertson signed a 1-year deal in the middle of the season. He'll be a free agent. Jordan Romano didn't have a good year. He'll be a free agent. Walker Buehler really wasn't much of an impact piece for the Phillies. He'll be a free agent. Jose Alvarado, there's a club option, and there's a mutual option on Harrison Bader. Bader, off of one of, if not the best season of his career. He's going to test the market, although I very well could see him returning. It seemed like he loved his time in Philly. And honestly, if Harrison Bader didn't get hurt in the playoffs, there's every chance the Phillies win this series. He was that important to them, and they really did feel his absence. But what do the Phillies have moving forward? Where is this core at? This was year 4 of this window of contention for this core. Kyle Schwarber signed a 4-year deal prior to the 2022 season. Nick Castellanos signed a 5-year deal in that same offseason. And then they went to the World Series. Now, Trey Turner came along a year after in 2023. JT Realmuto, I believe that was going into the 2019 season that he got traded over there? And then he got signed in no. He got traded before 2020 and then signed in 2020. I can't remember. He got traded there first, and then he signed going into the 2021 season on a 5-year deal that just ended. You look at where they are at. They still have Harper. They still have Turner. And they still have Castellanos, although he wasn't starting every day down the stretch, and it didn't seem like he was very happy with the manager. There's every world that he could be a salary dump candidate this offseason. If they bring back Schwarber, if they bring back Realmuto, which are both big question marks, Schwarber's going to be 33. Trey Turner will turn 33 in June. Bryce Harper turns 33 next week, and JT Realmuto would be 35. Now, Francisco Lindor is going to be 32. Brandon Nimmo will be 33. Actually, Lindor might already be 32, but he's going into his age 32 season. Pete Alonso will be 31. Okay, so it's not like it's drastically different, but the one huge difference is Juan Soto is still 26, will turn 27 in a couple of weeks. So that Juan Soto window is vast. It's endless. It is more than a decade long. You have one of the best 3 players in baseball right now. If you're just talking about position players, or if you just want to even narrow it to hitters, best 3 hitters in baseball, Judge, Ohtani, Soto. I think that's almost consensus. So because of Juan Soto, the Mets are just beginning this current window. Yes, the Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo group has been around for a while, but Juan Soto is in the first stage of what could be very many windows of contention for the New York Mets throughout his obvious Hall of Fame career that he's going to enjoy at the Mets. Bryce Harper, it's starting to turn a little bit. He's not quite the dominant hitter that he once was. He didn't have a very good postseason. Zach Wheeler had to get that TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome. That is the surgery that ended Matt Harvey's career. Now, despite the fact that Wheeler's a Philly, I've always rooted for him. I mean, it's strange to say, but I've always loved Zach Wheeler. So even though I've wanted the Phillies to lose, I still have admired from afar watching Zach Wheeler and what he's become with the Phillies. So I don't want to be celebrating that injury by any stretch of the imagination, but more just looking at what they're going to have next season. You can't count on Wheeler being the ace. And he got that surgery late. I don't even know the exact timeline of when he's going to return next season. And again, that is a very tough surgery to come back from. This isn't Tommy John where the timetable's long, but the success rate at this point is, becoming, more often than not, guys are as good, if not better than before in some cases. They still have the best pitcher in this division, Christopher Sanchez. And I really do believe that, even though you still have Chris Sale, with the Braves, and Spencer Schwellenbach, Nolan McLean for the Mets. Christopher Sanchez is the best pitcher in this division. He just proved it. He had an unbelievable performance in an elimination game. Jesus Luzardo has great stuff. He's going to be back next year too. But what else are the Phillies going to have in that rotation? Aaron Nola just pitched to a 6.01 ERA. Now, granted, an injury-plagued year, but he still made, I think, 17 starts, and he pitched to an ERA over 6, and he's getting older. Ranger Suarez is a free agent. Are they going to pay him to come back? I feel like he's gone. So they're going to have some questions in that rotation. They do have Juan Duran. They do have their closer locked in. But still, I mean, they are going to need Andrew Painter to step in next year and be a big part of their team. And Painter had a 5.26 ERA this year. He's their top pitching prospect, has long been this top pitching prospect they were hoping could be a huge piece of their future. And he still probably will be. This was the first time he actually had a healthy season and pitched since 2022. Did not pitch in 2023 or 2024. So for Painter just being healthy and throwing over 100 innings, it was a good season, but again, a 5.26 ERA in AAA. So what can you count on him in 2026? They have Justin Crawford, Carl Crawford's son, who very well could be their starting center fielder next year. He hit .334 in AAA this year. They have Aiden Miller, a top shortstop prospect in AAA. He might help next year as well. But compare their farm to the Mets farm and the prospects that could help out next season. The Mets got McLean, Sproat, Tong, Christian Scott coming off Tommy John. That's 4 potential starting pitchers from their farm system. They got Carson, Benge, and Jet Williams, who are better than Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller. At Just Baseball, our top 100 prospect list, we have Carson Benge at 19. We have Jet Williams at number 28. Aiden Miller's at 52. Crawford was not on our latest update. He might crack the preseason rankings, but he was not a top 100 prospect the last time we updated it after the trade deadline. The Mets have 2 top 30 prospects in baseball, probably ready to slide into their lineup. The Phillies, it's 1 top 100 prospect in baseball, maybe a fringe one. Again, Benge and Jet are better than Miller and Crawford, and the pitching difference coming from the farm, it's that. I mean, it's drastic. The Mets have way more impact arms on the way up. And the Phillies are the 2-time defending NL East champs. David Dombrowski is going to be aggressive. They're going to rebuild that team. I don't think the Phillies are going to fall off. But I think the Phillies are nearing an end of this window. And for the Mets, I think they are sitting in a better spot. They got the better tandem of superstars with Lindor and Soto over Turner and Harper. If you want to debate Lindor and Trey Turner, you can. I think Lindor still is the better player. He had a 30-30 season. Trey Turner, though, I think he won a batting title and he played better defense this year, but historically, Lindor is the better defensive shortstop. You want to split hairs there, you can. You can't split hairs anymore about Harper or Soto. Soto is clearly the better player, the better hitter. He's in his prime. And Harper is probably getting to the point where you could say he's a little bit past it. He's still a great player, but he's not Bryce Harper of 2022. So I look at where this division's at going into the offseason. The Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies are going to be the favorites going to next season. The Marlins had a good year, but I don't think anyone's going to be projecting them to win this division. And the Nationals have a lot of talent, but they had a horrible season. So it's those 3 teams again next year. The Braves can absolutely bounce back. They still have plenty of talent. The Phillies are the 2-time defending champion. But I think the Mets right now have the best farm system of the group. I think they have the best player from the group with Soto. Now, Acuna, that's a guy that can give Soto a run for his money. I just wonder where the Phillies are going to be at next year and the couple years beyond that. At a certain point, you got to wonder when that window is going to slam shut. And I think for them, it feels like they're on borrowed time a little bit more than the Mets or even the Braves, even though those 2 teams obviously had worse seasons. But the cores that they have in place are younger and I think just largely more talented. So yes, this is a Mets fan the day after the Phillies get eliminated from the NLDS, puffing my chest out saying the Mets are better than the Phillies. I understand, and rightfully so, the criticism that I can get for making these comments, and I could absolutely be proved wrong next season if the Phillies win their 3rd straight division title. But I think when you look at 2026, you can't tell me that the Phillies are ahead. And while I said that the Mets are better positioned than the Phillies, better positioned maybe than the Braves, they still have to do it this offseason. They still have to make a better roster for 2026. They can't just sit on their hands. They got to make trades. They got to make signings. They have to figure out what they're going to do with Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz. They have to figure out how much they can count on those young players and what veteran pieces to bring in to accent the roster to have a team that really can have the depth to go the distance. But I think they have the most resources at their disposal this offseason. They have the deepest farm to trade from, and they got Daddy Warbucks and Steve Cohen that is going to spend wherever the Mets need him to spend. So we'll see what the final picture looks like for these rosters going into spring training, but I don't think that the Mets' collapse of this season carries over into next year. I really don't. Just like that error shouldn't carry over for the Phillies either. But the ticking clock of an aging core might. And if they don't bring back Schwarber and Real Muto, or even if they do, you got to wonder how many more years that same group can continue to try to bang their head against that wall and hope to finally break through. A rough end for the Phillies for sure. A play that'll never be forgotten. And for Mets fans who are also Giants fans, one glorious night in October. Obviously going to be the best night we had this month, clearly. And hopefully the rest of this playoff will wrap up soon and we'll get to some free agent action. But that's going to be all for today's show. I did a rookie Friday Farm Report show. I talked about the rookie rotation for next year. So I got a show in the can that we're going to put out there on Saturday. So you will get a Saturday show. So look out for that. If you are listening on the audio side, follow, rate, and review so you don't miss that any of your episodes of Locked On Mets. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Check out the show tomorrow as I talk about the rookie rotation next year. How much can the Mets count on McLean, Sproat, Tong, and even Christian Scott? Will go through it all and even touch on some of the other guys that are waiting in the wings beyond that. So it will be a fun show talking prospects. Again, make sure you check that out. And I already mentioned where you should follow, rate, and review. As always, thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listener, your first watch every day. Now, for your second watch, hey, check out Locked On Phillies. Give Connor a review. Watch the show. Drink some tears. Should be a good time.